Hi, I'm Pierre for Morales.io, and welcome back to this series of videos where together we're learning how to code with Solidity. This is the fourth video of the series, and in this one we're going to be focusing on modifiers and how they can be added to functions. We'll just take a look at what they are, how we can use them, and also just, in general, how they can be useful to us. Let's get to it. So we're back in Remix, and actually, you might recognize this code. This is the same one that we used to create our coin in video 2. So it's just a coin from this file that we had worked on together from the second video. I copied it into this new file called Modifiers. Okay, so what are modifiers? Well, modifiers can be used to change the behavior of functions in a declarative way. So for example, you can use a modifier to automatically check a condition prior to executing the function. Modifiers are inheritable properties of contracts, and they can be overridden by derived contracts. Now, I'm talking about stuff we didn't address yet. I'm just introducing this topic right now, because contracts can inherit properties from other contracts, right? So they can inherit their properties, they can inherit their functions, and one of the things they inherit too are modifiers. Just introducing this topic, we'll take a look at it more in detail in a future video. Okay, so modifiers, we add them to a function and they allow us to change the behavior of the function. And the most simple example as to how they work is to replace these require functions here. So let's take a look at an example. So you see in this case, when we mint our new coin, we limit this to the minter, so the person that actually created the contract in the first place. Now, if we want to do this using a modifier, what would it look like? Well, towards the top, before our constructor, I'm going to create a new function that I call with the keyword modifier. So this is what states, of course, that we're going to be creating a function that is a modifier function. And we're going to call it only owner. So you got it. This is that only the owner can call this function. Therefore, we call this modifier only owner. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're literally going to just copy this and paste it here. And we can add to this minter, we can add only or minter can call this function. Now just to stay consistent, actually instead of calling this owner, I'm going to call it only minter. Yeah. So only the minter can call this function. And now this statement here, I can remove it. And after public, I'm simply going to add our new function, only minter. So the first thing that it's going to do is it's going to call this function, which will check that the person that is calling this function is in fact the minter. So doing exactly what I was doing, but we're going to be using this modifier that we created here. And we can go test it out. Yeah. So I'm going to come and compile this. And we have an error. So what error do we have? Right, so there's a very important thing that is needed. The modifiers always have to finish with this, you see? And this error will look exactly like that. You cannot forget it. It has to be simply the last line of your modifier has to be this. So now if I compile it, you see, it went through. Okay, once it's compiled, I come here, I delete whatever I had here, and I deploy it. So here we have it. Now, you see that the contract was deployed using this address. Therefore, this is the address of the minter, because the constructor function is called straight away when the contract is created. And the first thing that it did, and the only thing that it did, is set the minter to the creator of the contract. So if now what I try and do is we take this address, for example, and I try to mint a new coin with the address of the receiver being an address different than the one of the minter, and we're going to send, 100. I click on mint. it doesn't work, you see? We get an error, and we actually get the text here, only Minter can call this function. So we see that it was called properly, which is great. And when, you know, just to test it, we can also see that if I come back to this address, and I copy it, and I replace this address by this one, and we're still going to mint 100, I click on mint, and this works because this is the actual minter. Now, in fact, what we can do is we can do the same thing with all of them, yeah, with all of our require statements, and let's just do it here. So, yeah, modifier, and we're going to call it amount greater than, yeah, just to keep it simple. And you see that what we need is we need this value amount. So in order to use it as part of this modifier, well, this modifier will also take an argument that will be a uint amount. Here we go. And all I need to do is literally just copy this. I cut it, yeah, because I just can remove it straight away. Add it to this function, and let's not forget this time. Here we go. Yeah. So super simple. And then we just need to add it here. And adding these values here is just a matter of adding them literally one after the other. No comma, no nothing. They are just white space separated. So now I type amount greater than, and I just add the variable amount. Yeah, because we have it. Amount, it's a public value. Okay. Now we can deploy this, but actually we'll test this. We'll test this in a second. What we can do is we can do the same thing with this one. So we create a new modifier that we're gonna call, you know, balance greater than amount, because that's actually what we're doing here, right? We're checking that the amount is smaller or equal to the balance of the person that is sending this coin, right? Because of course, if you're sending coin, you need to at least have this balance in your wallet. So that's what we call it. And it does need, though, argument. So it needs, first off, uint amount, right? And that's the only thing it needs, I believe. And what we can do now is we can just, well, first curly brackets, and I just take this value, then I come and I input here. And below that, we just add this part. Okay. And after that, all we need to do is add in here simply balance greater than amount, and we just need to pass the variable amount. Yeah. So let's just give it a go. If I come and compile this, goes through, no error, because we remembered this time to add this, very important. And if I just remove previous deployments and deploy this one, now what do we have? Well, the first thing we want to test is the only minter. So we've tested this a second ago, but we can go and do it again. So I copy this address, which is different from the one that was created, from the one that created the contract. And we're going to try and create 100, which obviously we can't. And again, we get only minter can call this function. Okay, now imagine the minter, the minter here, this is the address. We replace it and we create 100, great. So mint, you see, great, it means that this wallet address now has 100 coins. So what we can do is we can try to send some coins. And let's send it to this address. So I input the address here, and then I'm going to input the amount that we want to send. Now, we need to send, you know, a minimum of, we can send a maximum of 100. That's what we have in our wallet. So here, if I try to add 150 and I send 150, well, then we get an error that says insufficient balance, because this function, the modifier function that we created, was called before anything else. Okay, so you may be asking, you know, why is this useful? I mean, we had just one line of code and we added actually 4 lines of code now. The reason for that is simply because now, well, it can be called this way. So it allows you to organize your code and it allows it to be clear and reusable for other functions. And the next part is what I mentioned about at the beginning, is that this is inheritable between contracts. And we'll take a look at this in the future, but what this means is that the fact we declared it as part of this contract, we will be able to create a new contract that inherits attributes of this one, and we'll be able to call this modifier here. And it will be very handy because we will only need to declare it as part of this contract, and we will be able to have a contract that does completely other functionalities, but reuses this function here. And this is where the power of modifiers lays. Now, as usual, at the bottom here, I'm just adding the definition of the new concept that we saw in this video, which is a modifier. It's the same definition than the one that I gave at the beginning of the video. So just, keep it, maybe add it to your cheat sheet. It will be easier for future reference. Of course, this is anyway available in the documentation that, as usual, I recommend you go check out. So that's it. There you have it. This is the 4th video. It's a wrap. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you in the next video. Take care.